Beneath the ordinary world lies a veil, and behind it, the voices of the lost still whisper.
We are your guides into the shadows, where true crime meets the paranormal.
From chilling crimes to haunted histories, we uncover the stories that refuse to rest.
This is Veil of Echoes.
The night air carries the faintest trace of carnival music, then warbling like it's drifting from some forgotten place. A clown waves from across the lawn, balloons tugging gently in his grip. Children squeal with laughter as they run toward him, the grass crunching beneath their shoes. Parents smiled, revealed to see a neighbor so generous with his time. But the longer you watch, the stranger it feels. The colors of his costume blur under the streetlight. The painted grin, once playful, begins to harden. And his eyes are wrong. They don't sparkle with warmth. They measure, they calculate. Step closer. The laughter fades, swallowed by the quiet hum of a basement bulb. The air is damp, sour with earth and mold. The smell seeps into your lungs, clings to your skin, and refuses to let go. The ground groans beneath your feet, as though it's trying to exhale the secrets buried just below the surface. This isn't a nightmare conjured from a horror film. It was real. Behind the painted mask stood a man who lived two lives. To the world, he was John Wayne Gacy, contractor, community man, even Pogo the Clown, bringing smiles to children's faces, but hidden beneath his home was a graveyard. Each body carefully stacked in the soil, each life erased in silence. The killer clown, a predator who wore a painted smile and used it to lure his victim straight into the dark. This is the story of John Wayne Gacy.
Welcome to Veil of Echoes, where true crime collides with the paranormal, and the past refuses to rest.
We're your hosts. I'm Lindsay.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Bria. Each week we guide you into stories where the line between fact and fear blurs. Some echoes live in courtrooms and police reports. Others linger in locked basements or beneath the soil of a quiet neighborhood that never forgot what was unearthed there. But before we begin tonight's case, we want to pause and thank you, our listeners. From the very first step through the veil, you've walked with us. Every download, every follow, every review adds another voice to the chorus of echoes that carries this podcast forward. Reviews may seem like small gestures, but they're the lifeblood of indie shows like ours. They help others find us, step through the veil with us, and keep these stories alive. So to everyone who has listened, shared, and left their mark, thank you. You are part of this journey, part of the echo that grows stronger each week.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. And tonight, we step into one of America's most infamous cases. A man who entertained as a clown at children's parties, smiling through painted lips, while his crawl space filled with the remains of 33 victims. This is episode 6. John Wayne Gacy, the Killer Clown.
Before we begin, a warning. This episode contains graphic and disturbing details, including sexual assault, murder, and descriptions of human remains. Listener discretion is strongly advised. If at any point you need to step away, please do. These stories are heavy, and we will tell them not to sensationalize, but to remember the victims and the impact their loss left behind.
So, who exactly was John Wayne Gacy? The man the world came to know as the killer clown? To understand, we have to strip away the paint and see the boy who grew up desperate for approval and the man who built a mask of charm to hide the rot beneath.
And with Gacy's story inspiring everything from documentaries to horror films, it's important to revisit the truth of what really happened in that quiet Chicago neighborhood, where the laughter was only a cover for screams.
John Wayne Gacy was born on March 17, 1942. He was the second child of John Stanley Gacy and Marion Elaine Gacy. Out in public, they looked like a typical working-class Catholic family on the north side of Chicago. But behind closed doors, it was a different story. His father, a World War I veteran and mechanic, drank heavily. When the alcohol took hold, so did the violence. He berated his son endlessly, calling him stupid, fat, and a sissy. The blows followed, a belt across the back, fist across the head. Even when John tried to help around the house or do well in school, it never seemed to be enough. His father's approval dangled like a prize he could never win. One memory would stay with Gacy for life. The day his father struck him so hard, he was knocked unconscious. And yet, years later, he would still insist he loved his father, that all he ever wanted was to make him proud. That contradiction, yearning for love from the very man who brutalized him, was a scar carved deep into his psyche. His mother, Marion, was the opposite. Gentle, protective, quick to offer comfort after her husband's outbursts. But even her tenderness came at a cost. Each time she shielded John, his father's rage grew hotter. To the boy caught in the middle, affection and punishment became hopelessly tangled. A confusion that would later warp into something darker. John wasn't the only child. He had two sisters, one older, one younger. His sisters later described him as the peacekeeper of the family, the brother who tried to ease tensions after their father's violent rages. His older sister remembered how John bottled everything up, never fighting back, always trying to make things right. In her words, she never understood how he absorbed so much without ever exploding. That tendency to swallow anger, to hide pain, would later become part of the mask he wore so well. Gacy was also plagued by health problems. He suffered from a congenital heart condition and had blackouts that sometimes dropped him to the floor without warning. Doctors advised him to avoid strenuous activity. To his father, this only proved what he already believed, that his son was weak. He mocked John relentlessly, calling him a mama's boy. The neighborhood kids picked up on the taunts. They teased him for being overweight, for being soft, for clinging to his mother. Even when he tried to fit in and make friends, he was marked as different. But there was another side to young Gacy. Teachers described him as polite, eager to please, and hardworking when given responsibility. He wanted to belong. He wanted to be liked. And that hunger for approval, for control of how others saw him, would grow into an obsession. People often look back at the childhoods of killers and expect to see the same red flags: cruelty to animals, fire setting, escalating violence. But with Gacy, the story wasn't quite that simple. There are rumors he harmed animals, but there's no evidence has ever been proven. His red flags were quieter. The manipulation, the lies, the compulsive need for validation. His cruelty wasn't turned outward on pets or peers. It festered inside, waiting for its time to surface. By adolescence, Gacy had already learned to compartmentalize. The hurt child at home, the smiling helper in public. It was the beginning of the double life he would one day perfect. From the outside, he was just another boy growing up in Chicago. But on the inside, the mask was already forming. The boy who would one day call himself Pogo the Clown was already practicing how to hide. So what chills me with this is how much he craved approval. Even as a kid, he wanted people to like him, to see him as good. So do you guys think that need for validation was what pushed him to create the mask he wore later?
Oh, 100%.
Because I always thought, too, you would always hear that he harmed animals. And I was shocked that, those are rumors. I thought he did. But apparently not, so.
If he did, he's still an asshole. Even if he didn't, he's still an asshole.
Oh, definitely.
I'm going to make it perfectly known. This is going to be one of the harder podcasts for me because I do not do clowns. Nope.
No,
Screw the people with painted faces like that. Nuh-uh.
Yeah, she hates clowns.
No. When you have a dream, okay, it's not even a dream, it's a nightmare. When you have a nightmare about Ronald McDonald chasing you around with a butcher's knife and bloody sharp teeth,
Jesus.
you look at clowns differently the rest of your life.
I will say I've never had a nightmare of a clown, actually.
Yes, I have, and that's why I have a fear of clowns. And let me tell you, this dream was probably like 25 years ago.
PTSD.
It's straight up PTSD. It hasn't left my mind, and it will not leave my mind until all the clowns are gone.
Oh, God. They are creepy.
Who wants...
Pennywise creeps me out. Art, he's more kind of funny, though.
The dude kills people.
He's scary looking, though.
Yeah, do you see the fucking smile he has with them fucking yellowy-ass looking teeth and... Yeah, and I still have yet to watch those movies. I tried.
They're good. They're kind of cheesy, though, but they're fun.
Yeah, well, I tried, and I did not succeed, and I am okay with that. I am okay with being a pansy when it comes to clowns. They're too real. No. And there's too many killers that use the clown persona.
Yeah, wasn't there one? I don't remember. But he showed up at someone's house dressed as a clown, like shot him or something, and then walked away.
I have no idea, but what he probably did is he shot him, and then as he walked away, honked his nose and started laughing. Them big-ass clown shoes.
Yeah.
That's what I could say. Oh, God, no.
But why did John Gacy decide, I want to be a clown?
That's a good question.
Yeah, honestly, he could have been a mime.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, though.
He thought that the paint would do exactly what he wanted it to do, hide his true intentions, because most people like to read your expressions, and with all that paint on, you can't really see the little wrinkles, the twitches, like the planning in his face at the moment. Like, there's no way he wasn't just sitting there like, all right, I'm just going to have a fun time, because who knows how many of those kids he entertained that he killed.
Yeah.
I know a lot of them were his workers.
That's another thing I was wondering. Was they talking shit about him? And he's like, no. And his need for validation took over. And then
he was a pervert.
Well, I remember that too, because they were all boys?
Pogo the pervert.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be Pogo the clown. It's Pogo the pervert.
And that was his alter ego. Well, I forgot. What was his? I don't know. Anyways.
His alias, Pogo the pedophile.
That painted smile.
Makes sense.
By the time John Wayne Gacy reached adulthood, the bruised boy desperate for approval had grown into a man who knew how to wear a smile like armor. He had learned that if you shook hands firmly, worked hard, and told people what they wanted to hear, they would never see what you were hiding. He married young, posed for family portraits, worked long hours in management and fast food chains, neat hair, clean clothes, a voice that could sound earnest, even warm. To the outside world, Gacy was building a stable life. But behind the neat exterior, cracks were already forming. The quiet red flags of his youth, the lying, the compulsive need to control how others saw him, were only growing sharper. Friends from the JCs remembered him as a sociable and generous but they also whispered about his darker appetites. Rumors swirled of parties with wife swapping, of teenage boys lured in with promises of jobs or money. He was testing boundaries, grooming, manipulating, seeing how much he could get away with while still playing the role of a model citizen. In the late 1960s, the mask slipped. He was accused of luring boys, teenage boys, into sexual acts. In 1968, he was convicted of sodomy against a 15-year-old boy named Donald Voorhees, the son of a fellow Jaycees Club member in Iowa. He was sentenced to 10 years, but even in prison, Gacy performed. He took over the prison's kitchen, handed out extra rations, flattered guards and wardens alike. He became such a model inmate that after only 18 months, the gate swung open. He walked free, smiling once again, rewarded for his act. But freedom didn't change him. In 1971, just a year after his release, Gacy was charged again. Another teenage boy came forward, accusing him of sexual assault. This time, though, the victim didn't appear in court. The case collapsed, the charges vanished, and Gacy slipped back into the world untouched, his mask intact. Back in Chicago, he rebuilt himself, bigger and brighter. He remarried, bought a modest brick house at 8213 Summerdale Avenue, and launched his own contracting business, PDM Contractors. He plowed snow for neighbors in the winter, hosted summer barbecues where the smell of the grilled meat drifted through the block, and opened his doors for parties that stretched late into the night. His neighbors described him as helpful, reliable, the man you could always count on. But Gacy wanted more. He inserted himself into local politics, handing out campaigning buttons, volunteering at events, even posing for photographs with prominent leaders. In one photo, he beams beside First Lady Rosalind Carter, a killer in waiting, shaking hands at the highest level of power. For Gacy, it was proof his mask was working. And then there was the clown. He called himself Pogo, sometimes Patches, in red, white, and blue grease paint with oversized shoes and a balloon in hand. He performed at parades, charity fundraisers, and children's hospitals. Parents smiled, relieved to see a neighbor so devoted. Children squealed with laughter as he twisted balloons into animals. His painted grin stretched impossibly wide. But there was something wrong with that face. Unlike most clowns, who soften their features with round, playful lines, Gacy's makeup was jagged. Sharp pointed edges carved around his mouth and eyes, a grin that looked more like a snarl. Author Terry Sullivan later wrote that the design itself betrayed him. A mask of fun painted with the angles of a predator. Neighbors saw only the contractor, the volunteer, the clown. They waved at him across the lawn, never imagining what he carried inside. But behind the grease paint, behind the barbecue smoke, and the political glad-handing, Gacy's mask was hiding something unspeakable. The mask was convincing, too convincing, and no one realized that beneath it, the nightmare had already begun. So let me ask both of you. If he had served his full sentence in Iowa, instead of walking free after 18 months, 18 months of a 10-year sentence for sodomy. Do you think it would have stopped him?
Absolutely not.
Or was it only a matter of time before the mask cracked again?
Oh, it was going to crack.
Oh, yeah.
You can't tell me that it no. This dude was, just from the get-go, you knew even when he got in there, he was going to be like, guess what?
Oh, yeah.
Another 10 years, guess what's going to happen again, bitches?
He was a great, Ed Kemper. Great manipulator. Got himself out, and Gacy got himself out.
Oh, yeah, they got themselves out all right. They got freaking lucky.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, a year later they said after his release, he did it again, but the only problem is the person did not show up for court, so he got the step free again.
Yeah.
His mask worked, and he ended up killing 33 people.
Yep.
Douchebag.
Yeah, awful. Well, just like Ed Kemper, it was a slap on the wrist for him. So he's like, aha, I can do this again. I was like, that's probably what Gacy thought.
Yeah.
Well, my plan's working.
I don't understand people, but no. I'm not even going to get into that one. By the early 1970s, Gacy's mask was polished to perfection. The friendly contractor, the community volunteer, the clown. But beneath that carefully painted exterior, his dark urges were no longer contained. And inside his home on Summerdale Avenue, the performance ended, and the real John Wayne Gacy stepped forward. His victims were boys and young men, some as young as 14. Many came from troubled homes, some were runaways, some were simply looking for work. Gacy promised them jobs through his contracting company, easy money for a few hours of labor. Others he lured with alcohol, drugs, or simply the promise of a ride home. However they arrived, once they crossed his threshold, they rarely left again. The killings began in 1972 with Timothy McCoy. McCoy was just 15, traveling alone when he encountered Gacy at a bus terminal. Gacy offered him a place to stay for the night. The next morning, McCoy made breakfast in Gacy's kitchen, setting out bacon and eggs. Gacy later claimed he thought the boy was threatening him with a knife, but the truth is far darker. McCoy was his first victim. Gacy stabbed him repeatedly, then buried him beneath the crawl space. Years later, he admitted that in that moment, he felt a thrill he would chase again and again. 3 years later came John Botkovich, an 18-year-old who worked for Gacy's contracting company. John was bright, hardworking, and reliable. But when Gacy withheld his pay, Botkovich confronted him, demanding the money he had earned. He was never seen again. For his family, the disappearance was devastating. Their son had simply vanished. For Gacy, the risk was chilling. This wasn't a stranger. It was someone tied directly to him. And still, he buried the boy in the crawl space, covering the soil as though nothing had happened. Then there was 19-year-old Daryl Sampson. It was 1976, and Daryl had plans to meet a friend one evening, but never arrived. He simply vanished into the night. His family searched desperately, clinging to the hope that he had run away or was lost somewhere. But Daryl's life ended beneath Gacy's house. His body packed into the earth alongside the others. 3 boys, 3 different lives, and they were only the beginning. Dozens more would follow, each lured by the same smile, the same promises, the same false sense of safety. Inside his home, Gacy's favorite trick was the handcuff game. He'd pull out a pair of police-issued cuffs, demonstrating how easily he could slip free. Laughing, he challenged his guests to try. The moment the racket clicked closed around their wrists, the room shifted. The smile faded, and Gacy leaned close to whisper, "You're not going anywhere." What followed was terror. He assaulted and strangled his victims, often with a rope twisted to a makeshift tourniquet. Sometimes he'd sit on their chest and stare into their eyes as he tightened the rope, savoring the moment their life slipped away. And then came the crawl space. Beneath the neat little house on Summerdale was a chamber no higher than 3 feet. To enter it, you had to crouch low, scraping your shoulders against beams, crawling on your hands and knees as damp soil clung to your skin. The air was heavy with mold, thick and stale. Detectives would later describe it as one of the most suffocating, nightmarish spaces they had ever entered. One by one, Gacy carried his victims there, digging shallow graves with his own hands. At first, he left space between the bodies. But as the years passed and the killing escalated, the crawl space grew crowded. He stacked them closer together, sometimes laying one atop of another in trenches just a few feet deep. In the summer, the stench of rot rose up through the floorboards, a rancid, sweet odor that drifted into the yard, clinging to the humid air. Neighbors complained. One described it as the smell of decay, another as something sour that never quite went away. Gacy waved them off with a smile, blaming it on moisture, on clogged drains, on dead rodents beneath the house. And the neighbors believed him.
It kind of reminds me of Jeffrey Dahmer.
Fucking weirdos.
About his neighbor. Remember, she was like asking what the.
Oh yeah, I smell something. Oh, it's just the meat in my fridge. It went bad. I forgot to throw it out. No.
Or the fish.
Oh yeah, it's just my fish. I have fish. They died. I have not been able to take care of them yet. That's what you're smelling. That's my goldfish.
Give the ick. Anyways, sorry.
By the late 1970s, 29 bodies lay buried in that crawl space. 4 more he dumped in the Des Plaines River when he grounded beneath his house became too crowded. The horror of it almost unimaginable. Children playing in the yard above, neighbors waving from across the street, while just a few feet below, the earth pressed down on dozens of lost voices. The crawl space beneath 8213 Summerdale Avenue was no longer just soil. It had become a tomb, and every time John Wayne Gacy smiled, every time he put on the painted mask of Pogo the Clown, the truth of what lies beneath his home sank deeper into the shadows.
Can you imagine living in that neighborhood? Grilling in your backyard? Waving at the guy next door? While all the while, something like that was buried just feet away? Do you think that anyone ever truly sensed something was wrong? Or was his mask just too perfect?
Dude really knew what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that much. He really knew what he was doing.
Oh, yeah.
He had it down to a science.
For sure. Like, he knew the psychology of the people around him, and he kept rolling with it.
Yeah.
He was just like...
Yeah.
He was like, "Hi, I'm the one murdering people. How are you doing today? Hi, I just murdered John Doe. Have a good one." Like, that's what I think.
I don't know.
Like
any of them, like Ed Gein, him, smell it. I don't know.
Yeah, but this one with Ed Gein and Albert Fish, they didn't have like a different alias or something else they go by. This dude's like Batman.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, those two introduced themselves fully and still did what they did. They didn't need a mask, so Gacy is a pussy.
Yeah, he's
little sissy-ass fat clown bitch.
Yeah, he's like, "Here, this is how I'm going to lure children in. I'm going to dress up as a fucking clown."
Yeah.
But the other two are like, "No, we ain't doing that kind of shit. We're just going to fucking go on a murder spree, man."
Yeah, they didn't care.
But he's got it down to like a science on his manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on a rate. He got out of prison in 1971. And by the end of the late 1970s, he already had 29 bodies in his crawl space out of the 33 victims.
He also had a pretty high IQ. Not like Ed Kemper, but it was 118.
And there's your other thing.
It says this is considered to be in the near superior intelligence range.
Why is it the ones that are always so smart?
By December of 1978, John Wayne Gacy had been killing for years. Dozens of boys and young men had vanished, their voices silenced beneath his home. But it would be the disappearance of one 15-year-old boy that finally shattered his mask. Robert Peast was working at an evening shift at a pharmacy in Des Plaines. It was a bitterly cold December night, snow crusting on the sidewalks, the air sharp enough to sting your lungs. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in a pale glow. At the end of his shift, Robert mentioned to a coworker that a contractor named John Gacy had offered him a job, a chance to make more money than the pharmacy. He stepped outside to meet the man. His mother was waiting in the car to drive him home, but Robert never returned. For his family, the alarm was immediate. Robert wasn't the type to just run off. Hours became panic, and his mother's fear hardened into certainty. Something was terribly wrong. This time, the authorities listened. The Des Plaines police launched an investigation and quickly focused on Gacy. At first, he was his usual self, all charm and false confidence. He invited officers into his home, cracked jokes, and smiled as if nothing could touch him. But the mask was slipping. Detectives noticed the smell, a sour, pungent odor drifting from the vents. Gacy waved it off with a laugh. Moisture, he said. Dead rats, nothing more. But surveillance showed the truth, or at least hints of it. Officers tailed him through Chicago as he unraveled. He drove aimlessly, drank heavily, pulled over to vomit on the roadside. One detective later described him as cocky one moment, paranoid the next. He gave away jewelry and trinkets that would later be identified as belongings to his victims. The performance was falling apart. Finally, police secured a search warrant. On December 21st, 1978, they stepped inside 8213 Summerdale Avenue. The stench hit them instantly. Thick, cloying, unmistakable. The smell of death. Down in the crawl space, their flashlights cut across the packed dirt. The beams caught something pale, curved, jutting just above the soil. A human bone. Then another. The ground was giving up its secrets. Over the following days, the excavation began. Investigators crawled on their hands and knees through the suffocating space, their shoulders scraping against beams, the damp earth clinging to their clothes. With each scoop of dirt, another body emerged. The crawl space was more than just a hiding place. It was a tomb. By the time they were done, 29 bodies were recovered beneath his house. 4 more pulled from the Des Plaines River. The smiling neighbor, the friendly contractor, the clown. His mask had finally shattered, revealing the graveyard he had built beneath his own home. So can you guys imagine being one of those detectives crawling in that space for the first time? Do you think they had any idea just how many lives were buried under that house?
I don't think so.
They're probably just expecting the one.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we're going to come down here. There's only going to be one. Oh, wait, there's another.
And it was
And another.
Only 3 feet tall, the space.
And another.
Yeah.
And another.
Claustrophobia thinking about it.
Yeah.
And he was a bigger guy. Gacy, how the... I don't know.
Well, I mean, he got some problems.
Yeah, like, he was a contractor, but I guess he didn't build... Did he build that house?
I don't... Oh, good question. I don't think so.
That's a good question. I don't think he did either.
I never heard so. I don't... Let's look it up. I'm not sure.
And crawl spaces are typically small, but...
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you right now, like, I've had to be in my grandmother's crawl space, and for me to get a body in there would be, like, ridiculous.
He did not build the house.
So he just stumbled upon it?
He purchased the ranch-style home with financial help from his mother.
He had mommy's help.
Yeah.
What
What are crawl spaces for, anyways? Like Storage?
Storage and piping and stuff like that
Yeah,
for
I
under
can
the
see
house.
piping.
Yeah. Like how we
It's-
have all in the basement. They just put it underneath there for 1-stories.
Yeah.
Ew.
Flats.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what my grandma's house has, is the crawl space, so
That's like
yeah.
every house in California. Majority of them are flats.
Yeah.
There's no basements. There's
Yeah.
either upper levels and
Yeah, that's true. Florida? Right? Yeah,
Florida,
they don't
yeah.
have basements. Because of the hurricane.
yeah, because I mean that's the last thing you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are we going for the hurricane, honey? To the basement.
Yeah.
The trial of John Wayne Gacy began in February of 1980, and from the very first day, the atmosphere was electric. The courtroom in Cook County was packed wall to wall. Reporters filled every available bench, cameras flashed outside the doors, and the gallery was lined with families of victims holding photographs of sons and brothers who would never come back home. At the defense table sat John Wayne Gacy, dressed in a suit, hair slicked back, a faint smirk curling at his lips. He leaned over to whisper to his lawyers, sometimes cracking jokes, as though the proceedings were nothing more than an inconvenience. His attorneys pursued an insanity defense, claiming Gacy had multiple personalities. That when he killed, he wasn't the friendly neighbor, but another side of himself entirely. They even suggested one of these alter egos was Jack Hanley, the part of him that committed the murders, separate from the man smiling in the courtroom. The prosecution countered with the grim weight of evidence, rings, IDs, and clothing linked to the victims. Witnesses who testified to Gacy's assaults and all the above. The testimonies of investigators who had crawled through the suffocating crawl space, pulling out body after body. Hardened detectives admitted they had never seen anything like it. The smell, the sight of bones packed into shallow trenches, was burned into their memories. For the jury, the choice was clear. After a trial that lasted weeks, deliberations took just 2 hours, 33 murders, guilty on every count. The sentence, death. But even after his conviction, Gacy remained a performer. On death row at Menard Correctional Center and later at Statesville, he gave strange interviews where he denied responsibility, insisting he was innocent and that the real killer had framed him. In one, he claimed the bodies had been planted in his crawl space without his knowledge. In another, he said the police were part of a conspiracy against him. His words shifted constantly, a performance designed to keep him in the spotlight. And then there were the paintings. With cheap oil paints and brushes, Gacy began to churn out canvases by the dozens. His favorite subject was clowns. Some were cheery, cartoonish figures, grinning under bright hats and makeup. Others were grotesque, their eyes dark, their smiles stretched too wide. He painted Disney characters, landscapes, religious icons, but always returned to clowns. One of his most infamous works was a self-portrait, Pogo the Clown, the alter ego he had created in life, preserved forever in paint. In it, his face is exaggerated, cartoonish, almost playful, but the eyes are unmistakably his, cold, calculating, looking out from behind the mask. Collectors brought these paintings, sometimes paying thousands of dollars, turning his twisted art into a morbid commodity. Families of victims were horrified. To them, each canvas was another insult, another reminder that Gacy still found his way to make people look at him. For 14 years, Gacy lived on death row. He ate, slept, painted, gave interviews, while the families of his victims waited for justice. On May 10th, 1994, the waiting ended. At Statesville Correctional Center, witnesses gathered to watch Gacy's final performance. His last meal was gluttonous: a dozen shrimp, a bucket of KFC chicken, French fries, and a Coke. A nod to his years managing KFC restaurants in his youth. He ate it calmly, savoring every bite. When the time came, He was strapped to a gurney in the execution chamber. IV lines were inserted into his arms. Reporters, officials, and families watched through the glass. Asked for any final words, Gacy sneered. "Kiss my ass." Moments later, the chemicals flowed. The painted mask of John Wayne Gacy, the clown, the neighbor, the killer, finally slipped away. But there's one more detail. One of those eerie coincidences that makes history feel stranger than fiction. On the very same day that Gacy was put to death in Illinois, Jeffrey Dahmer was baptized in prison. Two of America's most notorious killers, their lives intersecting for a brief, unsettling moment. One ending, one seeking redemption. A day that marked both an exorcism.
I mean...
He needed something.
Yeah.
A day that marked both as an execution and a baptism.
That's so creepy.
It's the fucking clowns.
Well, just like the same day. I remember seeing that on Monster.
Oh yeah, because they literally did that, didn't they?
Yeah, it's just creepy.
It's fucking...
I wonder if he's going to be part of the monster series, because he needs to be 33 victims.
So, but yeah. I'm just curious, though. So he showed no remorse, not even in the courtroom or on death row. So...
Yeah, straight up, kiss my ass.
Yeah. Do you think he was ever capable of guilt, or was the mask so deeply part of him he believed his own lies?
I think he believed his own lies. I think he was too far fucked up in the head.
Yeah.
Well, everyone else believed him, too. He was released just to murder 33 people after sexually assaulting 2 teenage boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had problems.
Yeah.
Sorry, but those sentences should be mandatory. There's no, oh, you get to go free because you're being good right now, and you get some extra portions to the other prisoners.
I mean, seriously, I don't care if you plead the insanity case or not. If you fucking murder somebody, there's this thing called death row.
Yeah, exactly.
And it should be used the way it was intended to be used.
And his IQ wasn't no Kemper, but he was still superior to the normal person, so it's thought out and planned. Every moment, everybody.
Yeah, like he knew what he was doing.
Definitely.
And unfortunately, he got away with it for too long.
Mm-hmm.
And the cops didn't want to listen to the other people.
Nope.
And it seems like that happens a lot.
Yeah, it does.
And that's the unfortunate thing, is that does happen too often.
Or like when kids go missing, they're saying, well, maybe they just ran away.
Yeah, they say, well, it's literally like a statistic that they have, like so many kids, when they run away, they go to another family member. That's why they do it. It's like, it doesn't matter if they go to a family member or not. It needs to be looked into because it's a child.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fucking child.
I don't care if they run across the street. Something needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, like seriously. Oh, she was 16, so she ran away. That's why. No, that's not. That's not an excuse to use.
I hate that.
I don't care if you're 16 or not.
Exactly.
You do not run away.
No.
And then,
even like adults, though. Like, I feel like they need to take those serious. Like,
and they don't.
No.
Like, he was a master manipulator with his brain power put towards the wrong field. Like, you could have been somebody, you could have been something, you could have been what you wanted. You could have had the approval you were seeking, but instead you turned to murder. 33 boys. Yeah. Most kids at 18 nowadays are still considered children.
Yep.
John Wayne Gacy's death in 1994 should have closed the chapter. 33 victims. A house demolished. The man himself gone. But his shadow didn't end with an execution. If anything, the mask of the killer clown only grew more powerful. The lot at 8213 Summerdale Avenue was cleared. The crawl space filled. The walls torn down. Neighbors said the air felt lighter once the house was gone, as if the ground itself could finally breathe again. Still, the empty space stood as a reminder, a scar on the block where unspeakable things had happened. Culturally, Gacy's mask changed everything. Clowns had always been uneasy. The painted smile, the exaggerated cheer. But after Gacy, the image of the clown was poisoned. Horror writers, filmmakers, and artists leaned into the unease, shaping decades of nightmares. Stephen King's It, American Horror Story, creepy clown sightings that make headlines today. Every wide, toothy grin, hiding something sinister, carries a trace of Gacy's shadow. Then, there were the paintings. Dozens of them. Pogo and Patches, with their wide grins. Disney figures, landscapes, even Jesus. His brushstrokes were crude, but what made them chilling wasn't the art. It was who painted them. After his death, they became morbid trophies, sold at auctions, traded in secret. Families of the victim called for them to be destroyed. Others argued that keeping them was a way of staring evil in the face. Some of those paintings included versions of his self-portrait as Pogo the Clown, have surfaced in crime museums and private collections. The Grave Face Museum in Georgia, for instance, holds one of the largest collections of his work. While places like Alcatraz, East Crime Museum displays Gacy's artifacts tied to his clown persona. Even now, they spark outrage and debate. Are they history, or are they exploitation? One Pogo self-portrait even ended up in the hands of actor Johnny Depp. Depp purchased it believing the money might benefit charity, but when he learned the proceeds would only enrich private collectors, he quickly got rid of it. The painting, like all of Gacy's work, became part of the legend. Objects that seemed cursed, impossible to look at without feeling the weight of the horror behind them. Psychologists still debate who John Wayne Gacy really was. A man with a fractured personalities, or just a predator who learned to wear masks. His legacy is not just the horror he inflicted, but the way he blurred the line between monster and man, between laughter and terror, until they became indisguisable. But perhaps the most haunting part of his story is not his mask, or his trial, or even the paintings he left behind. It's the names of the 33 boys and young men whose lives he stole. So I'm curious, when you hear about those paintings still hanging in museums or being bought and sold, do you think they should be destroyed out of respect for his victims, or preserved as a way to stare evil straight in the face?
I think destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because who wants to stare
Or-
evil in the face?
If they're gonna keep one, just leave it in a museum,
Yeah.
not to where people can.
Well,
Have access to it and buy
Yeah.
it and
I
trade
believe
it.
that's the point of the parents, is like they're still using it as exploitation.
Yeah.
They're trying to gain views and people coming to the museum by telling them they have these serial killers' items there. Like, why keep any of it? Trash it all. There's no reason any of this stuff should be left behind. These were monsters, not people to be praised and remembered. They should all be put in unmarked graves, forgotten.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I guess for the victims' families, I would. If I was in their shoes, I'd feel the same way.
If
Oh,
I was
yeah.
in their shoes, I would have done burnt down the museum.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way you're going to hold this memorabilia to the man that murdered my son. I don't care what it's about.
Right.
Your excuses will never work for me. That is horrendous and
Yeah.
bullshit. There's nothing gonna change my mind about that. These should not be cemented in time.
Yeah.
These are people that did give no fucks about the lives they taken, but now they want us to learn about them, go look at their work.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it for sure. John Wayne Gacy wanted to be remembered as a clown, a businessman, and a performer. But we refuse to let his name be the last word. The echoes that matter most are the 33 boys and young men whose lives he stole. 28 of them have been identified, but 5 remain nameless to this day. Their identities still being searched for by investigators and families who never stopped hoping. And tonight, we remember them all.
Timothy Jack McCoy, 15. John Butkovich, 18. Daryl Sampson, 18. Randall Raffett, 15. Samuel Stapleton, 14. Michael Bonin, 17. William Carroll, 16. Rick Johnston, 17. Kenneth Parker, 16. Michael Marino, 14. William Bundy, 19. Gregory Godsick, 17. John Seek, 19. John Prestige, 20. Matthew Bowman, 19. Robert Gilroy Jr., 18. John Mowry, 19. Russell Nelson, 21. Frank Landingen, 19. James Brian Hackinson, 16. Francis Wayne Alexander, 21. Robert Winch, 16. Tom Bowling, 20. Dave Talsma, 19. William Kindred, 19. Timothy O'Rourke, 20. James Mazzara, 20. And Robert Peast, 15.
And for the 5 who remain unnamed, laid to rest beneath his home, but never forgotten, we speak for you as well. Your names may still be lost, but your echoes endure. These were sons, brothers, friends, 33 lives stolen, 33 echoes that should have never been silenced. We honor them not for how they were taken, but for who they were. May their names and their memory outlast the mask of the man who stole them.
So what do we make of John Wayne Gacy? Was he a fractured mind hiding behind multiple personalities? Or just a manipulative predator who preferred the mask of normalcy? Psychologists debate whether his killing were driven by compulsion, delusion, or pure control. But what's clear is that his life blurred the line between trust and terror. A man who shook hands at political rallies, who dressed as a clown at children's parties, even as his crawl space filled with bodies. It forces us to ask, how many monsters in history looked ordinary till the mask was ripped away?
And then there's the question of what lingers. Detectives who first entered his home swore the smell clung to them for weeks, as if death itself had soaked into their skin. Some claim they still dreamed of that crawl space years later, of crawling through damp earth, of pale bones jutting from the soil, of something watching them from the shadows. The house itself was torn down in 1979, leveled to the ground. Today, it's just an empty lot, but neighbors still whisper that the land feels heavy, oppressive. Some visitors say the silence there is unnatural, as if the soil itself remembers. 33 lives taken, pressed into the dirt, never allowed a proper resting place. You have to wonder, can a place absorb that much pain and violence without holding onto it? Could the echoes of Gacy's victims still cling to that ground? So what do you guys think? Can a place marked by so much horror ever truly heal?
There.
Okay.
Ah, the bug's on my screen. Oh my gosh.
He just wants to hang out.
Get the fuck. Stay away from my glasses. Ah! That's ridiculous. Damn bugs. He's like, here, let me join the podcast. He's like, I want to put my 2 cents in on this bitch.
Yeah. He wants, yeah. Anyways. Another palate cleanser.
Yeah. That one was a fun palate cleanser.
Yeah, it was.
Didn't expect to have a stink bug join my podcast, but it's all right.
I don't even know what I was asking. So do you guys think a place marked by so much horror, can it ever truly heal?
You are bad with heal right now.
Heal. Okay. What I was trying to ask. Can a place marked by so much horror ever truly heal? Or do some of those shadows never fade?
I'm going to say both.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like, it kind of goes hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm glad that it's still a vacant lot, but it's, because I couldn't imagine building in that soil.
No, but another 100 years from now, there will probably be a house there, and nobody's going to know.
Unless people keep
talking about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It can only truly heal if you just remember them for who they were and not what happened.
Yep.
Exactly. And
but the shadow will never fade.
No.
Damn, I like how he added that.
I do like that too. That's true.
Yeah.
Fuck John Wayne Gacy.
Getting deep again.
Yeah. And that concludes this episode of Veil of Echoes. Thank you again to everyone who has been listening, subscribing, and leaving reviews. Every word helps more listeners step through the veil with us, and we are so grateful for your support. Remember, we bring you true crime every Monday and paranormal cases every Friday. And leading up to Halloween, join us every Wednesday for mini-sodes. Bite-sized chills, trivia, and eerie facts to keep the veil thin all week long. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you never miss a story.
This Friday, we turn from Chicago's killer clown to one of America's most infamous exorcisms. A case so chilling it inspired one of the scariest films ever made. The Exorcist.
Picture it. A boy in St. Louis in 1949, tormented by unseen forces, furniture moving on its own, words carved into his skin, priests called in to confront something they could not explain. Was it possession or something else entirely? The case that shook a church and changed the way we think about demons forever.
Until then, keep your ears open.
And the veil closed.